I need one more person, then we can move on. One more, one more, one more, one more. Mr. Ebenezer.
Yeah, I also met Mr. Edward, and then I've forgotten your name, Raymond, and he said he's a Ghanaian. Ghanaian.
I'm pretty sure everyone here is okay. That's great. Can we clap for him, please? So I'm just going to be waiting for Pastor Eric to give us the introduction. But as we wait, I just want everyone to, I don't know, I'm just going to go around so everyone can be more comfortable with each other, easily spoken. I just want everyone to just give, I know, another brief introduction and just one thing that you're interested in. So I'm going to start from here. So who here wants to go first? I'll just go in a row. So what's your name and what's one thing that you're interested in that you really like? Yeah. Just anything in general. Okay, that's good. Yeah, you're next. Oh, that's good. Okay. Everyone say hi, Matt. Mary, you're next. Okay, that's good. This energy, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it makes me want to sleep. I mean, I know it's like late PM. It's not even late. Guys, can we up the energy? Is there something that we need to? Vim, no? No? Okay, I want everyone to just get up. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. Please. And what I want you guys to do is just stretch first. Hands in the air. I know it looks silly, but you guys are not giving any energy. So, yes, hands in the air. And then now stretch to your back. And then to the side. To the side. Now everyone hands on your head. Now on your waist. Raise one leg. Left, right, whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah. Now move it up and down like that. Hey, that one there, I can't even do that. Next one, your other leg, move it up and down. Up, down. Next, everyone do 10 jumping jacks. I'm joking, I'm joking. I'm joking. But I want you guys to just, hello? Yeah. I want you guys to just move around. Just keep moving around. Yeah. Hey, even the way you move around is so dead. Ah, guys, can I please have some energy? Do you guys need to scream? Does anyone want to scream? Ah, yes. Exactly. Can anyone go louder than her? Yes, louder. Louder. No voice. Okay, everyone can sit down now. So we'll have Pastor Eric give the introduction, and we can move on with the rest of the service.
So just a brief hint. I'm the better half of Pastor Eric. And because since the Bible says that shall be one. Since he's not able to be here, that'll be here. Amen. Amen. So I'll do the quick introduction. So for our guests for tonight, first of all, we want to say thank you for being here this evening. We truly appreciate your time and even your support and the efforts in which you've put into this program. We truly, truly appreciate it. God richly bless each and every one of you here. Just a brief introduction, please. When I mention the name, clap for them. If you don't mind us, I guess, standing up so we can see who you are. And we will just share something briefly about our guests for tonight. So for tonight, we have 4 individuals who are here. The first is Mr. Bansa, who is on my right. So Mr. Bansa is an immigration consultant, immigration advisor. Anything with regards to immigration law, please go to him, speak to him. All your questions, please direct it to him. He's married to a beautiful wife, and I believe with 3 children. Yes, he loves the Lord, and he loves anything about the things of God. Thank you, Mr. Bansa, for being here. We also have on my right as well, Mr. Stephen Danso. If you don't mind, please standing up. Welcome, Mr. Danso. Mr. Danso is also married to a beautiful woman called Mrs. Rita Danso. He has 4 children. He loves the things of God, and anything to do with the things of God, he loves about that. God bless you. We thank you for being here. Also on my left, we have 2 beautiful individuals from Rexdale Women's Health, or Women's Center. We have Mrs. Taiwo, who's waving at us, and we have Mrs. Maddie, who's also here. They are employment coordinators. When we were planning the reached out to them, they did not hesitate to come here to assist us. So anything to do with employment, resume writing, job search, cover letter, please see them. They're going to be downstairs right when you enter. They have a booth set up over there, so please, they'll be heading down there while we are having the presentation. So if you need to go speak to them right away, you can please go ahead and speak to them. Welcome. Appreciate it. Okay. And we cannot do the introductions without introducing the papa of our house. We have in our midst our Pastor Eric Nyako. Pastor Eric Nyako, can you please wave at us so people can see you? God richly bless you for making such room for us and for opening your doors for us. So without wasting any further time, we would like to call upon our first speaker. So today, how we're going to, the plan for the program is that we'll have the 2 presentations all at once, and then we'll have a Q&A of the 2 presentations all together. During the Q&A, you also, if you don't have any questions, you can feel free to head downstairs to our employment coordinators and ask them any questions you may have, or you can also stay here if you have questions. So I'll call upon Mr. Bansa and for the presentation to start, and then Mr. Danso will come and continue. In the meantime, our employment coordinators will head downstairs, so if you want to go down, you can also head down.
All right, thank you so much, and hello everybody. I think we've had some brief introductions, and it's good to see all of you. And such a privilege to be in your midst to share a little knowledge that I have as far as immigration is concerned. As Sewa, or the First Lady of the church, mentioned, my name is Edward. First name is Edward, last name is Bansa. She did mention about my marital status. I don't think she knows my wife's name. My wife is called Francisca, and I have 3 children. If I mention their ages, you may see that I'm a bit old, so I'm not going to do that. As also indicated, I am into immigration. I'm an immigration counsel, and I'm here today to share with you what immigration is all about in Canada. Everybody here, I believe, is an immigrant. Okay, we all travel from far away, different countries to be in Canada. I'm one of them. It's also important to know that wherever you go, it's also important to know that wherever you are, the immigration laws have to be observed, and you have to obey immigration laws and regulations. I'll start off by saying that Canada is a country of immigrants, okay? In all fairness, in terms of the landmark, Canada is bigger than United States of America. When it comes to population, Canada is about 1/10, just around 1/10 the population of US. So with that, it's reasonable to assert or to believe that immigration will always go on in Canada. Canada will always need immigrants. Why do I say that? First of all, the weather, okay? Even those who were born here, there's something called snowbirds. Every winter, they move down to Florida to enjoy the beautiful weather. Those who were born here, others decide to go and live in Florida, some in Mexico. And I can tell you that I know of 3 friends of mine who were Canadians, who are Canadians, I should say, white Canadians. And 2 of them, they inquired a lot about my country, Ghana. And they decided to go and visit Ghana. They went, came back, went back to Ghana. The 3rd time, they decided to settle in Ghana because of the weather. So a country that is so vast and big, and the population is so small, and people keep moving out of the country because of the weather and other things, it tells you that immigration will always be needed in Canada. But at the same time, they want immigrants coming the right way. Okay, you have to obey the law, obey the regulations, and obey the policies of the land. How many of us are temporary resident, meaning you are here as a student or you are here as a worker? I mean, if you are not a permanent resident, you don't, okay. And I'm going to tailor my presentation towards those who are temporary resident. Most of them could be students. And that's a key thing I'm going to focus on. Most students come to Canada, obviously, to come and study. The main purpose of coming to Canada is to come and study if you're a student. There are laws and regulations covering that. And we also know that Canada, the system works. The laws work. Either laws covering driving, laws covering everything. In Ghana, where I come from, if you see a red light, it means hurry up and cross. But in Canada, red light means stop. Okay. Similarly, immigration laws, they work. Okay. People may find a leeway. People may, do certain things that the law will not find them. But trust me, if you do the right thing and you are caught by the law, you'll be in trouble. Let me focus right now about all the areas, all the avenues, all the streams that one can come to Canada. You can come to Canada as a permanent resident, a family reunification, being sponsored by your spouse, being sponsored by your parents, being sponsored by your children. You have your permanent residence to come to Canada. You could also come in as a skilled worker, where they consider your educational qualification, they consider your work experience, they consider your knowledge in English and French, and then they also consider your age. And that is why I have a problem with, because the older you are, the more disadvantage it becomes for you. You hit 40 years and above, or 38 going, it becomes a bit problematic being able to, or being successful in the application. Those are the permanent residents. And trust me, one can also come to Canada as a citizen. Okay? By that, for instance, children under 18 years of age, if you were born when one of your parents, she's most of the time, the fathers, if you were born, or even the mothers, if you were born when one of your parents or both parents were Canadian citizens, but if both parents, it means they might be in Canada, and therefore you'd have been born in Canada. But hypothetically, let's say your father is a Canadian citizen, goes to Ghana, meets a lady, they get married, and the woman conceives, brings forth a child. The child is a Canadian citizen by the virtue of the fact that the father is a citizen. How does this person come to Canada? There's something called proof of citizenship, where you apply, and then two things they consider: the date of birth of the child and the time that the father became a citizen. So if the father was a citizen before the child was born, the child is already a citizen. And they therefore consider two major documents: the child's birth certificate and the father's citizenship certificate. Automatically the child is a Canadian citizen. You put in the proof of citizenship and the child comes to Canada as a citizen. Enough of that. Let me go to those who come to Canada as temporary residents. It could be someone coming in as a visitor. You come as a temporary resident. It could be someone coming in as a worker. Temporary foreign workers, you come and work for some time. When the time is over, seasonal workers, you go back to your country. You can apply again and come back another time. Then what I'm going to focus on mostly, people who come in as students. Okay. Most of the time, years ago, when we were very young, I had friends whose parents were so rich, and therefore, even high school, they wouldn't finish high school, and they would come to Canada or the United States to further their education. Most of the time, they would come, then they go back after the program to manage their parents' businesses and stuff like that. But here, I am going to talk specifically about students who are here studying, and some of them make it a point to get their permanent residence in Canada after their program. But I'm going to start from the student visa in general. You come to Canada as a student. Obviously, you'd have applied for student visa from Ghana or whatever country you might have originated from. And you'll be given what we call the student visa. Normally, that will be stamped in your passport. The visa will be fixed in your passport. S1, what have you. And then down there it will tell you that you have multiple entries to come to Canada with. One caution is that there's normally an expiry date for the student visa. And therefore, what that means is that if the expiry date comes and you haven't left Ghana, and you still want to come, you may have to go back to the Canadian High Commission for them to activate or reissue the visa for you, if you're able to give them a tangible reason why you didn't leave Ghana all those years. Again, when you arrive in Canada, that is where you get what we call the study permit. The study permit might have been issued maybe in the year 2020, and it will tell you that it is valid till maybe 2024. Most importantly, most of the time, based on the number of years of education that you are going to have in Canada. Okay. Now, the study permit in Ghana, we can say odumfo ukumfo. You know, there are lots of advantages involved, and it can become a big disadvantage if you do not pay attention to the policies or the regulations stated on the study permit. You will see, leave Canada by this time. mind you, that is the time that your program would have ended, may accept employment on or off campus. And there I see that the government has been very generous by asking that you can accept employment on or off campus. Years ago, there were a little bit of restrictions where you could only accept employment on campus. But then with fights from representatives and the policy makers, they modified it in a way. So you do accept employment on or off campus. There was also a caveat. There was another regulation that you have to pay attention to. You must accept employment and must be working, and then it will say that if these conditions are met or these conditions are required. You see some regulation R something something, regulation R something. Three most major important ones. It talks about if you are going to work, you must have registered as a full-time student in the school that you are attending. Again, you must be going to school. And of course, if you've registered as a full-time student, it means you should be going to school. Then you must be doing well academically. And that is where some people will say that, does everybody speak Twi here? Yes. Oh, no, you don't speak Twi, right? Oh, you do? Okay. So, like me, Thank you so much. And you realize that it tells you that you must be going to school. You must have registered full-time. You must be going to school. And you must be doing well academically. And I don't see anything wrong with that because, look, from Ghana, if your parents have sent you to school and they see that your grades are suffering, the grades are always below F, below E, and all those things. Come on, your dad or your mom will call you and sit you down and tell you that, look, we have to do something about this. Similarly, the government is trying to tell you that when you come as a student, yes, we are giving you the privilege to work, but, a big but, focus on your education. And therefore, if your grades are not better, then you must stop working and focus on your books. These are the three regulations that you see there. Register on a full-time basis, you must be attending school, and you must be doing well academically. Lots of people don't do that, and with what I do, I meet them a lot in my office. Some come, they don't go to school at all. Yes. Some go halfway. And then at times they say that, look, maybe I'm not school fees in no boarding, so I need to know Majai school. Come on, before you left Ghana to come to Canada, you knew how much you were going to pay. And therefore, and you were prepared for that. It's a different thing if maybe after first year, second year, something happens, something unexpected happens, and maybe you decide to take it easy because you do not have the funds. That one, possibly, you can negotiate with the school. And the school may defer, if they will defer the program for you, you work with that. And when that happens, it's possible that your study permit would expire whilst you haven't completed the program. And if your passport is valid up to a certain time, it's a matter of liaising with the school. The school will give you a letter. You use it to apply to extend your study permit. And of course, immigration people, they understand. You extend it for you, and you move on to complete it. Now, mentioning the passport issue, let me chip this one in. That normally, the expiration of your passport or the validity of your study permit, work permit, visitor's visa, record, visitor's record, they are tied to the time that your passport is expiring. So that if you are in school and let's say your study permit is expiring, you want to renew it, and let's hypothetically say that your passport expires somewhere in December 2023, you put in the extension application. Trust me, if you are lucky and they issue it, they renew it for you, the expiry date on it is going to be the same day that your passport is expiring. This is one thing that lots of people don't pay attention to. And therefore, it's very important that whilst your study permit is expiring, check your passport. I know sometimes my wife tells me that, Edward, your passport is expiring, so we have to renew it. So I know that it can happen. But in order not to be disappointed with immigration, nor not to have some shock, at the end of the day, make sure you check the validity of your passport, so that if your passport is expiring soon, you work on it, get it renewed, then you can put in the extension. Now, let's say that you finished, you've come in as a student, you are on the program, you want to remain in Canada after your program. And again, don't get me wrong, not that I'm pushing that if you are here as a student, you should do everything possible to remain as a permanent resident. Possibly your parents need you back home to take care of the business or something like that. But I'm talking to those who want to remain in Canada permanently after the program. There is something called PGWP, that's Postgraduate Work Permit. And I'm going to talk about that, speak to that momentarily. But when you have it at the back of your mind that you are going to remain in Canada permanently, be sure that the school that you are attending will be in a position to give you a postgraduate work permit after your program. It's very important. And this is a document that can assist you to to apply for your permanent residence in future. With that, when you are done with the program and you eventually want to apply for, there was this program called Canadian Experience Class. That is when you are done with the program, it's a stream that you can use to apply for your permanent residence. That's where the postgraduate work permit comes in. So when you are done with it and you start working with the postgraduate work permit, there are some hours that you have to get to qualify you to apply for your permanent residence under Canadian Experience Class. Most of the time, it's been 37.5 hours a week multiplied by 52 to get you the required hours for the year to be able to apply for that. You need to pay attention to that. And one funny thing that we are still debating with the government and the policy makers is the idea that even though you might have studied in Canada, they still expect you to give a proof that you are proficient in English. Okay? We are fighting with it. We are working on it, but I don't know whether that can be, there will be an exemption there. Why? Because if someone came here, and this applies to people who might have done their first degree in Canada, who might have done their master's in Canada, and even if you've done your PhD in English, they will still expect you to give a proof that you are proficient in English by writing IELTS tests, CELPIP, and all those things. Honestly speaking, it doesn't make sense. Because I don't think anybody is taught in Chi in Canada. Everything's in English or in French, okay? But the law is the law, so you have to. So if you want to apply for Canadian Experience Class after your program, there was a need for you to be proficient, prove that you have proficiency in English. So when you are done with all these, there's another area that is quite sensitive when you're applying for your Canadian Experience Class, which is another form of permanent residence. That is NOC, National Occupation Classification. This is a list of professions that are in the database of the government in Canada. So, for instance, if your background, if your profession is medicine, then you look at it. If your profession is there, it means you stand a very good chance of being successful in the application. There are other areas where, in case you don't have it and you have a job that is that is more or less in a supervisory position, it can also help to, land you there. But you need to put in the application. These days, all these applications are done online. And therefore, when you've met all the requirements, it opens the door for you to get a permanent residence. Now, if someone is here as a student, there is also the likelihood that your program may overlap the validity of your student visa. What do I mean by that? Maybe when you were coming to Canada, your passport was expiring after 3 years or within 3 years, and your program is valid for about 4 years. There will be a time that you realize that your program will be running, but your study permit will be expiring. All you have to do, again, you check your passport, the validity of your passport, and then you get a letter from the school indicating that your program is running from this time to that time, and your passport is expiring around this time. You therefore need to extend your study permit, but you make sure that you've extended your passport before you go in for the study permit extension. All these, I'm mentioning them to you because these are the common problems that I encounter in my office. And in most cases, people wouldn't have checked these documents and they realized that there was a problem in there. Now, after your program, there's also another application known as skilled worker application. There's also another one called provincial nominee application. With a skilled worker, it could be done either from your country of origin or it could be done from within Canada. But that one has some, there was a technical issue in there, in that all permanent residence applications, they expect that you must do them from your home country, with the exception of if you were here studying under Canadian Experience class. With a skilled worker application, they, again, look at your age, your work experience, your educational qualification, and all those things. And then it's a point system. And that one, we do have what we call adaptability. When you just in case you've studied in Canada before, you've worked in Canada before, or you have a relative living in Canada, a brother or a sister, whatever. They look at all these, put the points together, and if you are successful, it's quite competitive, I should say. If you come within the threshold, you come within the maximum points that they are looking for, then they give you what we call invitation to apply. That also gets you your permanent residence. Now, there's another one that can be a bit sensitive because whenever I'm counseling people on that, I don't want it to sound like you're pushing someone to get into an unwanted relationship. But then if you came to Canada as a student, hypothetically, let's say that you've met someone you love, and you get married to the person, and the person sponsors you, you are allowed to remain in Canada while the sponsorship application is being processed. And to be honest with you, amongst all other things, I see that is the fastest way that people get their permanent residence. But again, don't get me wrong, not that I'm canvassing, I'm marketing this stream for you to get into any unwanted relationship. But as a professional, it's my duty to let you know all the applications that are available for you. But talking to you as students, and Madam Sewa, how many minutes do I have for this? Oh, okay, I think she's busy. Any timeline? I think I had apportioned, 30, 35, or 40 minutes for my presentation. This one I'll say for my speech, and I wanted to make it a bit formal or informal, whatever it is. I'm sure you are not seeing anything on the screen. It's because that is how I impact, the knowledge on people. I'll say it, and if you have any questions at the end of the day, I'm ready to answer them for you. So, with the students, again, I believe I mentioned earlier on that I'm going to be directing my everything towards the students. It's very important to ensure that the rules and regulations on your study permit is observed. Other than that, once you are a temporary resident, and of course, if I mention temporary resident people, I'm talking about someone who is here as a visitor, someone who is here as a worker, or someone who is here as a student. Holding the temporary resident permit, if you fall in the arms of the law, it becomes a bit dicey. What I'm saying doesn't happen often, but there have been some exceptional cases where immigration had come out after people for not obeying the regulations. Some were told that you came as a student, you never went to school. And of course, they are right. It more or less, you've broken the law if such a thing happens. Now, when that happens, they reserve the right to summon you. If it's a very serious offense, they can take you to the detention center. And when you are there, procedure fairness, the law requires that they should give you 48 hours to organize your detention review. But all that they are going to do is to ask you to explain why you came in as a student and you never went to school. Or you are going to school, all right, but then you've taken lesser credits and you are working about 50 hours a week. That is an offense. And if they get to know that, they have every right to take you through the, admissibility procedure. Tell us why we shouldn't send you back to your home country for breaking the law. Okay. And then, with the number of hours, and just before we started, someone asked me the number of hours that a student is supposed to be working. Thank God, right now, the government has increased it because of the labor shortage. They've increased the number of hours that students can work. I think it's around 40 hours also. But it used to be 20 hours. And that one was also an issue. If you were working more hours, and even if you were doing well in school, months ago, if they found you to be doing well and you were working more than 20 hours, they could also take action against you. But as I said, now it's increased, and therefore you have the liberty to do that. But that's also not to tell you that let's focus on your academic work and more hours of working. You have to balance them up. The government is also putting in some measures where it will be easier for students, the pathway for them to use to get their permanent residence. And it's something that is being talked about. But then when the time comes, it will be made public, and then people will be allowed to do that. But for now, I know that there are some areas, those in the healthcare sector and stuff like that, it's a bit easier to get into the permanent residence streams. More or less, you realize that the student intake, and before we started, I was talking to, I think, Mr. Danso and Francis, talking about this. When people are coming to school, it's like, all right, thank you. Okay, all right. When people are coming to school, most of the time, it's like, we know we are going to Canada. And they don't pay attention to the fine prints or whoever the consultant, whoever the representative is, telling them. Not too long ago, there was a documentary about some Indians who came, and they were made aware that they were coming to study in Canada. then they could get their work permit, get their permanent residence. They came, they went to the school, they started the lectures, and they realized that it was like being in a kindergarten somewhere. No lectures were going on, and the professor or the lecturer just said that, oh, just read the stuff. At the end of the week, you have to write a test. It was a bizarre incident. So these people started complaining. And at a point in time, they decided that they realized that they had been deceived and they wanted to go for a refund as far as their fees were concerned. And it became a tug of war, until the media came in and I think something was done. What I'm trying to say here is that there are lots of people who come not knowing how the law works. There are lots of people who come in not knowing that the school that they are attending does not have what we call the DLI, Designated Learning Institution number. You get into it, you start the program, and midway through the program, you realize that you are just paying the fees, and the only advantage you have is that your study permit allows you to work off campus. But how about after the program, after your school program, what is going to be your fate? Especially if you had decided that you were going to use it to get your permanent residence here. You realize that there was no opening doors for you to do that. So it's very important that before you get into the school, you know a lot about the school that you are attending. Whether the school will be in a position to help you to get your postgraduate work permit. Whether the school will be able to help you to get into another stream that you want to use to obtain your permanent residence. In all, a student is a student. A student is a temporary resident, just like a visitor or a worker. And therefore, it's very important to know that the right thing has to be done. And I say this and seal it with the statement that I made initially. If you are in school, the law requires that you should be in school full-time before you can work. The law requires that you should be doing well academically before you can work. The law requires that you should be attending school regularly before you can work. Anything short of that can result in, a situation that you didn't want to happen to you. And when you read the regulations, you see ours, this, our, that, our, that. They all have their meanings. They are not just there for being their sake. They have their meanings, and it's very important to observe them. And on top of it all, I'm talking to you as a big brother, as a father, as an uncle, whose children I would always ensure that they are doing well in school. And therefore, take your academic work seriously. Make sure that you are in a profession that if you want to use it to apply for your permanent residence, it's also going to help you. Look, I'm not kind of putting some professions under the bus or anything like that. But look, you have to be sure that, just as in Legon, I had a roommate who was very funny. He was taking linguistics, classics, and something else. And he would tell me that, look, Edward, when I finish these courses, I'm going to be a magician because I don't know where it's going to take me to. No, but look, eventually he was able to do his master's and he's lecturing in one of the universities. But all that I'm trying to say is that equip yourself very well when you get into the system. And even before you come into the system, know what will work for you so that when you come in, it will not be a burden and you will not be found wanting. Subject to anything, I think my 10 minutes is up. Francis just mentioned that to me, and I'm available for some questions when the time comes. Thank you.
Can we give a bigger round of applause, please? So thank you, Mr. Bansa, for that informative presentation. I hope you guys all learn from it and use it. So next we do have Mr. Danso to talk about, sorry if I mispronounced your name, to talk about post-secondary. We do actually have Q&As after During the Q&A, you can actually stay and ask questions and get answers, or you can go downstairs for the career fair and ask questions to the ladies downstairs. So now let's give a round of applause for Mr. Danso.
Thank you. Okay. Already. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, I didn't hear anything. Oh, that's better. Already. I'm really glad, and I thank God, the Almighty God, today that the church, the community, has put a program like this together to bring people, to bring young people, and to support in an environment that we can all learn something. Any moment that I hold this mic, what I say is I learn to share, because I will learn from you, and then I will also share what I know. So, as my dear lady mentioned, my name is Stephen Danso, and I just wanted to mention that first. And my lovely wife is here, finally, which just sitting right behind her. If you can wave for us to see. I can't do much without her. I try, but she wasn't here, so her presence makes me more comfortable when she's smiling, and that's a good thing. Okay. Alrighty. So for our audience this afternoon, my part is more education. What are we going to discuss will be more like a step-by-step process. We do have 30 minutes, and I normally intend to stick with the time. So first of all, Francis, if I can get you to maybe put up the first slide. Okay. I have been in the education system by the grace of God, and I always say by the grace of God, because He has been taking me through different levels and different steps within the college system, all the way from policies office to academic office to facilitating courses and to supporting other facilitators, training facilitators and faculty how to use the e-learn systems. And finally, I'm at the point that I do more like coordination of online programs at Centennial College. So the first thing that I will say is when we talk about school, when we talk about programs, there are so much information that I have really think, again, how we share information. I do not intend, for the purpose of this afternoon, overload you with more information where you will have to sift through or have to go back and dig the same thing that you will have just Googled and find out. That is not the essence of what I'm going to do. If I do that, then I'm not doing anything. You can just type in a Google of a program you want, and then you will be able to get information. So then what are we doing? The first thing that I would like to say, and there are 3 levels, by the way. The first one is those who have either completed a program in a post-secondary and want to do a different program. There are people who have not stepped into the post-secondary or that environment and wants to do a post-secondary program. And when I say post-secondary, that means both universities and colleges. And there are those who are also looking at the streams of other choices. And so the first piece that I will go by is the purpose definition. And what does the purpose definition mean? It means what are you really looking forward to do? Okay. There are many students that come to my office, and when I ask them that, what do you really want to do? Most of them don't know it, but they're in college. And they said that this is the program that I was able to tap in, and that is what I'm doing now. I have observed that many of those students end up either very seldomly completing the program or, abandon altogether. And that breaks my heart, in the sense that the foundation of what they were looking for is really not there. And as I said, the reason why I want us to talk more about what is our purpose, what are we doing. So, for example, if any of you were to start a program, what would you do? What would be the first thing? All you do is you look at a program you want to do and then you just go? No. I believe strongly that it takes efforts, just as it takes efforts to do an exam. Let's say that you're in high school and you're doing an exam. You focus, you prepare for the test, you read the book, you find a place where you will have the ability to focus to do that. Same thing with when you are deciding to do programs in colleges or in universities. You are going to be doing a program that is more like 3 years or 4 years in university or even more. It takes at least maybe 2 to 3 weeks focused to decide on the program that you are really going to do. Some people may say that, oh, I look at the list of courses and then I chose the one that I choose. Back my time when I was going to college, starting off college first and then university, I sat in a study hall, not studying. I wasn't preparing for exam. I wasn't doing anything that has to do with the courses. All I was thinking was, what am I really going to do? What program do I want to get in? How do I get in? Someone may say, well, I can do that because I'm multitask. Not all of us are that. And sometimes we deceive ourselves. You may be home and you'll be thinking that, I know what I'm going to do, when you don't know what you're going to do. For example, you may think that, I know, but the phone is there, it distracts you. TV is on, it distracts you. Somebody gets your attention, somebody calls you. On and on and on it goes. And then the next thing you know, the day is over and another day has begun. And you do the same. Another week has gone and another week has begun. And notice, one thing that I have realized is, the more you are doing anything and you are pressed for the last minute, the time, that is when you may, the tendency to go wrong, because you are just in a rush. So this speaks to those who are either starting to find a program that they would like to do, which I will share that information here. So that brings up my next point, which is the start to finish planning. How many years do I want to go? Even in the study hall, sometimes you can ask yourself that this program that I'm going to be doing, how relevant is it going to be in the next 5 years? Is it going to be a program that is going to be still? During my time, it was more like IT. You ask yourself, how viable is that going to be within the next 5 years? Is there a tendency to grow? How do I find out? And once you have all the information that you need, and you double check it again, and that is one of the areas, and I appreciate Prince anyway, because that is exactly what we were talking about, and he made the effort to come to join us today. Once you make that decision and decide on the exact program that you are going to do, then your mind is firm. Even when the program becomes hard or becomes more challenging, you are focused because you know that this is really what I plan to do. You may have a backup as an alternate program that is side by side with what you're doing, but please, the information we're going to share here is not intended to overload you, but just to give you the sense of planning, how to plan and how to do. Even for international students, and I don't know if any international student is here with us. Is there international students? Okay, so for international students, that may be a strategy too, that yes, you have come in and you are studying a program based on the application you did. Should you do a 2-year program or a 3-year program? It is expensive. Each year is about 17,000 for international students. And for the last time I checked, one of the programs is like 19,000. So if you're doing a program that is that much, remember, the calculation is a calculation. It doesn't change. It's 19,000 times 3 years. minimum. So that is a lot of money. Okay? And it's not that, oh, maybe it's just a number. No, it is real. Plus textbooks, plus your time. Same thing with when you are planning a program that you like to do. Remember, if you are going to do a 3-year program or 2-year program, even if you're a domestic student, and that is what I share with those students that I meet. Remember, it's going to be 3 years or 2 years minimum. If those 2 years, had you not been in school and you had been working, let's say on an average you'll be making $40,000. That is $80,000 down the drain if you don't focus on really what you're going to do, plus the cost of the program you did, and so on and so forth. So the fundamental piece on this point that we have talked about is deciding on the program that you're going to do. Okay. Then knowing yourself, who you are. So for example, this is who I am, and how flexible can I be, and how flexible can I change between what I like to do. And please, one more thing that I say to cap this off is, let's not engage this, and then in the long run, after we go home and have our dinner, we forgot all about it. Okay? So let's make sure that we make sense out of it. Can I go to the next page, please? So example of areas that you might want to decide to choose, because sometimes it's also hard on students who are choosing programs. You may not know what you really want to do, but that is part of the assignment, I call it, of staying focused, even in a study room where you will not be distracted, finding out the areas of specific that you might be interested and testing it out if you're interested. So some of these areas are up there, like accounting and finance. If you know that you like doing accounting, if you know you like to do finance, those areas, those are more like one domain that you can do, which, by the way, it's not always that you have to just jump into a 3-year accounting diploma or 4-year accounting degree without even knowing. There are programs out there that allow you to start even for a short number of courses to see if you would like to do, and you can. Those are what I call moving yourself within the professional career domain, as well as also education along with it, because you may learn to be in the professional domain, but if you don't have education, sometimes you become disadvantaged, because in the long run, the companies know your background, they have your file in HR, they know that you don't have much choices. Okay? But example of the first one, accounting and finance, more and more people are also jumping into programs like payroll. And payroll, even though it intertwines with human resources department, it also has a bit of numbers attached to it, and it's just like one course, just to get people started. $400, learning how to do the payroll course, and see if it's something that interests you to do, and then you can take on and decide that you want to grow from there. It can be a program that is like only 1 or 2 courses, and there are vast of them, which I will share. Healthcare programs. Is this something in the healthcare that you might be interested in? So you looking at it from different spectrums, like in more like in corridors of whichever one that you like to do. Legal, engineering, education. That is another vast area that has more commanding in terms of professional development. Technology, which is obviously one of the areas that caps it off. So deciding what you like to do is obviously just as vital as getting into the program before even doing the application. Okay. Next. And of course, those are just given, like decision. Are you disciplined enough to know your own strength? Sometimes we may not even know our own strength unless we find out what is our strength and our weaknesses. And without making that conscious effort, you may not know that information. Good habits. And I learned this from my wife, by the way. The moment something comes up, she jumps to it. In my case, normally I decide, I think, and I try to think through first, but she jumps to it and then revise and then get it done. So depending on whichever habits apply for the situation that you're doing, that is the first thing. Please, it was to know that, notice that I haven't even gone to any of the programs, any of the colleges. We've talked about how to navigate through the system, how to decide, how to make a decision. What I strongly believe to and want to share is, once you are equipped with what and how you want to work this out, looking for the programs is the second matter that may not be too much confusing or too many things, and you will be focused. Okay, time management. That is another area, depending on what you like to do. For example, if you are going to go to school in September, or plan to go to school in September, and you start digging out the details of that middle of August, you are out of luck. Okay, it won't get you far. You will really be surprised. I know some people like to be surprised. They say, oh, I like to be surprised. Yes, you will be really surprised, because you won't be able to get there. Okay, so you calculate the time that you need to do and the time that you need to be able to be successful. Okay? Measurement, re-energize, evaluate. Measurement meaning that how do you measure that what you are applying for is realistic. For example, you want to go to medical school and you haven't finished high school yet, and you just want to apply to a medical school. Guess what? It may not work. Okay? Alrighty. Next slide, please. Okay, Mr. Champo. Okay. I hope that we are getting something out of this so far, and for our online audience as well. We just want to make sure that we put the basics into the right spaces. For students who are deciding programs, there's also one thing that we call articulation, which I'll come to. So now that we've talked about a whole time spent about thinking through the programs, what do you want to do? How do you want to go about it? What do you want to start? And so on. Let's talk a bit about choosing colleges over university, or choosing university over colleges. Francis, can I ask you to bring up the link for colleges, please? Okay. So Ontario colleges. By the way, there are 24 colleges in Ontario. One is French, so the other 23 are pretty much English institutions. And the amount of programs that we have really is vast, like it's huge. And that is even more challenging when you want to make a decision of the program that you'd like to do. There are a subtle of programs that are geared towards healthcare, not just necessarily nursing. Nursing is great, by the way. It will put something, it's a profession that is very respected. But nursing, physician, obviously we know that those are not the only healthcare industry. Not nursing, physician, PSW, and all those areas that are common. Those are not necessarily the areas we can say that they exist. There are more, a huge lot more than that. So once we get to the colleges and universities, I will just share a few points here. So for someone, if you were to decide about choosing a program you're going to do, remember we're talking about 3 years. What will make you what will be the decision factor to choose either a college or university? So, for example, most of the colleges and universities, by the way, are now blending in. There are most of the colleges that are offering degrees, just as universities do. Most of them are first degree, though, like there's no master programs for the most part, but we do have first degrees. I'm just waiting for the link to show you. Majority of us who have done high school here may know about OCAS, which is Ontario Colleges Application Center. So that is a given. That pretty much gives you all the colleges do the application, 3 applications, and then you pay your fee. But as I said, the real work has to do with when you were studying in a study room, finding out what you're going to do, deciding what you're going to do, and even working your way down that once I finish this program, what are the steps? Is it going to be involved in final year doing practicals? Am I equipped for it? Do I have to quit my job to go to school? How do I manage the finances, the OSAP, and all that? Okay, so it looks like we're having issues with bringing up the colleges, but that's okay anyway. Deciding on whichever courses and programs you want to do. For example, let's start off with the colleges. Most of the colleges do have programs that we call articulations. The articulations mean that you can start a program that is like 11 courses to get a certificate. Example of them is medical office assistant. Okay. Once you have that medical office assistant, for example, let's say through Centennial or any of the colleges, because most of them are working together, and I would have shown you as well once we get access to see. You can finish a medical office assistant program, find something working in the environment, and decide if you want to get a diploma out of it, then you can do, because the certificates are more or less, actually less than the level of diploma. So for example, the program that I just mentioned has like 11 courses to finish. So you can say to yourself that just to an employer that you've done. And quite frankly, that is one of the popular programs we have at the college. Most of the students, the employment rate is so high that they don't even finish the school before then they're already offered. So most of the hospitals or doctor's office, they look for medical terminology or billing because they want to get paid. Okay, so a program like that, you jump in and you do the first 2 courses. What I normally tell them is, put it on your resume that you've done these 2 courses and you're doing a medical office assistant program, and off you go. And then, of course, don't forget to come back to school when you get a job. Okay, because some people, the moment they get a job, they decide not to come back, and only to find out that in the long run, they are lacking. Okay, so. All right. So the pathway really means you finish 11 courses. If you want to get a diploma like medical office assistant diploma, there's going to be another maybe 12 or 13 courses. Altogether, roughly 26 courses for the diplomas, which is a little bit higher than the certificate. The certificates are geared towards specific zooming, what you need for be able to get a career prospects and moving forward. Another thing that I talk to students is some or majority of the jobs, especially the office environment, whether it be medical office assistant, payroll, any other office, one of the strengths that is good to have is Microsoft Office application. Okay, you don't have to go do a huge program for Microsoft Office, because there are programs that could cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 with over maybe 2 years or at least a year, depending on how much you do. By the way, for certificates, if you are doing certificates, you don't necessarily need to have a high school diploma. Okay? As long as in Ontario, for the public colleges anyway, or for the provincially run colleges, which the biggest players are Seneca, Centennial, Durham, Sheridan, you don't necessarily have to have a high school diploma for a certificate. All you need is, as long as you are over 19 years, you will be able to apply, and they don't even need to see your transcripts. You decide to take the list of the courses in the program, so you don't need approval. And once you're done, you just simply apply for the certificate. The only time that you really need your credentials is when you're applying to become a full-time. When you're applying to become a full-time student in any of the colleges or a diploma program. Then you need to go through OCAS and get all through the checks and balances to make sure you get the admission, you get the offer. But for programs that are part-time based, you don't necessarily need to have the high school. It will help if you do, but if you don't let that stop you from doing the program you like to do, okay, from the colleges. Universities pretty much you do need, since most of the programs are geared towards professional level grades, which is more like diplomas. But even so, excuse me, for the universities, they normally do have continuing education courses that are similarly in the same spectrum, that you don't necessarily have to have the high school diploma. The only time it becomes an issue is I mentioned to students that please do not jump into a program that is more challenging to do, especially for the continuing education, simply because you don't want to be discouraged. Like you start something, you thought that you were going to do it, and then you find out the reality is that the textbooks doesn't even have pictures. Okay, it's just a raw text, and the textbooks are this big, and then it discourages you from going forward. And I've been there before, believe me. You read a chapter 1, you don't understand, you go right back at it, and then you are sort of locked behind. So for majority of the programs, you can start off through continuing education, get started, do the program, and take it up from there. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. All right. Once you are, and most of the students that come in through the continuing education avenue, once, for the colleges anyway, once they know that at least you've done a credible amount of work and history. So for example, the first term that you were taking courses, you get in A's and B's and all that, and you decide to apply to get into a full-time, that can be a consideration. But the disadvantage part is if you are through the continuing education and then your grades are like D minus, nearly F's, incomplete, and guess what? If you decide to come back in the full time, they will refer you to go get your high school diploma. Having said that, there are some programs that require high school diplomas. Okay, those are the programs that are highly competitive. For example, the nursing program, you must. If you decide that you're going to go through the back door, it will take you forever. And that is all part of the planning that I said earlier, that you need to be in the study hall, think through what you're going to do. If you're going to do a nursing program, you have to have the prerequisites. Otherwise, you will just be running by the pool side, and nobody will be putting you in the pools for you to get healed. Okay. For those who want to do programs such as nursing, majority of us have finished high school, but the courses that they did are not the courses that are in the spectrum to do the nursing program or other programs. So for the nursing, you will need biology, at least another science, and math and English. Has anybody heard a program called ACE, Academic Career Entrance? Has anybody heard of that? Okay. Yeah. So that is a program that Ontario institutions via the government set up, that for those who have finished high school and they are attempting to do a program and the program requires specific courses, or even those who have not completed a high school, they don't want to hustle to go to adult night school and want to do the upgrading. That is called the Academic Career Entrance. By the way, that is paid for by the Ontario government. I know I'm wrapping up soon. We couldn't get the stuff loaded. But anyway. So technical alert, what I'm hearing is that after going through the PowerPoint, we can just go through the links that I have prepared for you to see where and what other areas to choose from. That part will be quick, and for those of you who need that information, I will be happy to give you. Really, because those information are all public information for schools. Okay? So we will just do as we said. Back to the ACE program. Those who have finished high school and want to do programs, for example, nursing, when you go apply to the colleges or to the universities, they will refer you right back that you don't have chemistry, you don't have biology, you don't have the English required. Those can be done through that academic career entrance, and I have it on the list as well, which I'll show you. By the way, each of the courses, there are two spectrums. One is in class and one is online. The online one is very flexible, and that is a whole world that I had wanted, if I had time, to talk to you about as well. Majority within our group anyway shun online courses, thinking that, oh, you know, I have to have the face-to-face. Guess what? Most of the colleges, and quite frankly, the university part, I can't speak to that because the colleges I know, majority of us are shifting majority of the programs online. Right after the COVID era, that everyone was home. How can somebody go to school when COVID had locked us up for 2 years? Does it mean that the person is going to stay on vacation for 2 years? No. The colleges, majority of them, most of the courses were shifted online, and they've realized that these programs are just as equally important and viable to deliver them online. If anyone here is thinking that, oh, I don't like to take online course, please come and speak to me after. That is what I live and breathe. I coordinate the whole cost of courses online. It's not that killer. Okay? It takes steps. It takes a method to learn. Why do I bring that in? It gives you also a huge advantage for you to take whatever you want to do. Okay? For example, let's say that you have a high school diploma and you want to do a program, but the program is offered in Algonquin and it's like only 5 courses, and you're working in Toronto. What are you going to do? And I was mentioning that with, sharing that with Mr. Bansa. Are you going to quit your job and go and live in Ottawa to go to the school there? Or if the courses are in Windsor, what are you going to do? Move to Windsor? No. If it's available online, quite frankly, the same teachers teaching in class may be the same people teaching online anyway. And the online, the advantage part of it is some of them, at least you get everything that you're going to do. So you see a full, and for those who are online as well, if you are hearing me, it takes that steps. And what I mentioned to students is it's like learning how to ride a bicycle. Once you know how to ride a bicycle once, guess what? You don't go back and learn again. I haven't seen anybody who has learned bicycle and go back and say, I forgot how to ride a bicycle. You jump on it and go. Okay? Same thing. For online courses, there are patterns. And quite frankly, the colleges have done a very good job mapping them in such a way that they don't confuse students. So if you have taken one online course, the second one may be just as pretty much same process. Okay? And it gives you that advantage. The ACE course that I talked about, for example, you're going to do nursing and you decide to do the ACE. Quite frankly, the government pay for the online course. Each course, they pay $725 per one course. And you are taking it for free. Okay? And so the advantage part of that is instead of being in a classroom for the 5 months for a regular high school 60 or 120-hour credit, the online, they allow you to do it within 2 months or 3 months. Of course, I don't say super fast and fail, no. But they allow you to do the course at your own pace. Once you finish, the moment you finish and you pass, they let you do the next one. So I've seen those who are very focused do the requirements of the program they like to do within 4 to 5 months. All they do is they do it well. And the advantage part of it is the online courses, they're available 24/7. So you can jump on the course anytime you wish. And you do the course. And if you don't understand it, you simply go back and then just reread it. Okay? Unlike a classroom, I don't disprove classroom, but unlike classroom, when you are taking notes, sometimes I have a hard time writing notes when the teacher is speaking. I record it, I do this, I do that. But the online, you look at the course, and wherever you have problem, you simply go back there and read it again. Okay? Okay, so don't discount or write off the online environment if you really want, and especially for those of us who are matured and working already and want to start off, because it's hard quitting your job and going to school, and it's just as hard staying with the job and not going to school because then nothing will happen. Okay, if you have the job, you're stuck, you can't go anywhere, you don't like it, but you need the money. At the same token, you want the school, but you can't quit and go to school, so which is which? And the only thing is to start it at least at a level and then going forward from there. So at this point, I'm going to cut off the PowerPoint, and if we can start off with the links, if we are able to look at them. I will show a few things, since in the essence of time, my time is pretty much expired, but just going to share a few things. So I will zoom into the most important, or the ones that are quick. But for the ACE courses, please don't, you will see the link as well. And by the way, we can share this information as I said, okay? So I'm just waiting to see once we have, maybe open up the internet. See if it comes. Okay. I hope this information is helpful, by the way. And you are not just occupying the space and time just because you have to be here. And by the way, for those who have questions after, I do get busy during the weekday. My portfolio is like, and I don't say that in bragging or anything, I'm saying that for realistic, like 2,200 students online that we cover. Another thing that I just quickly want to say is, for as much information that you can find online, most of the colleges and the universities are busy. The lines you try to call and you are in the queue for the 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Majority of the information that we are privy to is the same information that is public. Okay? Another scale that I can add to the conversation we had at the very first piece, that staying even in a study hall and finding out information, is digging out how to find everything online. It can be confusing. The internet is a huge beast. But practically what I normally do is I open up a notepad. It's when you're on a Microsoft, any of the your computer or laptop, and you type in notepad. What I do is, if anything that I'm doing, in order not to be distracted or go over the place, for example, this particular link, I will copy it and paste it into a notepad so that I have all the areas that I'm searching. Meaning that when time permits and I'm going back, it's quicker, rather than trying to find all the information at first. So by the way, this is the College Sector Committee, that is for adult upgrading and ACE. The ACE means Academic Career Entrance, and they offer courses. Some people even do their high school from there. For those who don't have the high school diploma and wish to do their high school, instead of going back and joining the young people in class, they rather do their high schools through here. And the advantage of it is being able to do the exact courses you need for the program you like to apply. No, surprises. They want 4 courses or 6 courses. Here they are, and you apply. For example, especially in the nursing programs. Okay. Okay. So the second area that I just want to bring up is this one here. That is Ontario Learn. As I mentioned earlier, the Ontario Learn is a league of all the public colleges or the provincial colleges working together online, so that they make programs versatile, give people opportunity. Can I click on the programs, please? Programs. And that is one of the major areas that I work at as well. And my role, even though I'm resident at Centennial College, I collaborate with all the other 23 colleges, really, if we have to work together, okay? So, I will do this. I believe that the rest of the information will be packed, and for those of you who need more of these links, we can share. So, for example, look at all the programs that are available through different colleges. This also gives you a sense of having the ability to zoom in on some of the programs you might want to do. So, Francis, if you keep going down, maybe, you see it's like 63 pages of programs that are all available for students to do. And as I said, you don't require anything specific to do this. All it is you register as a continuing education student and off you go, you do the courses, starting off with one first. Normally, I also mention to students that the first course that you start is your testing ground to learn online, to use that as a stage to find your way navigating through in order to get through. So those are a huge vast of programs out of, there's quite frankly over 900 programs, if I'm not mistaken. There are a lot of programs that colleges are doing. Okay? And lastly, I didn't get much time to talk about other institutions, but I will take 1 minute to go to the link that says, okay. Just bear with me for a moment here. Okay. Programs at Michener Institute. Program at Michener Institute is halfway through the list. Then we can wrap up. Sorry, folks, we are a bit over time, and I'm always time conscious. So, programs at Michener Institute. Okay. So, this particular institution is a very peculiar one. This particular institute is aligned in collaboration with University Health Network. Has anybody heard about University Health Network? It's a huge collaboration of hospitals that work together. They have a huge amount of programs that are specific in the healthcare industry. So, is there a way to see the programs that are listed here? Yeah, please go down. Okay. Okay. Are we still at the Michener, or we moved from the link? It appears that we might have been jumped back to Ontario Learn, but the Michener Institute has a programs. Francis, if you're able to click on the link direct. Yeah, otherwise they have like lab technician programs. They have all that other areas that relates to healthcare that are not common for people to see. Quite frankly, I have been wondering about what are the other areas like lab work. I know the colleges run programs like 2 years, 3 years, but this particular institute is very strong in alignment with University Health Network for delivering healthcare programs. And of course, there's the trades. The trades meaning that the scale programs and on-scale programs. No, not on-scale, unregulated. There are some trades that are like air conditioner repairs, alarm installation people. I've had someone who was very crafty, who did alarm installation just to be able to have food on the table while going to school. So his job was working with one of the alarm companies like ADT, and that was on contract basis. So anytime they call him to go fix something, he get the contract to fix it, get the money, but he's still in school. So he literally did a program to do a program. He knows he's going to be going to school and he needs like the 3 years to go to school, but he has to eat and he has to drink and he has to put his head in some place. So he did a program that would allow him to at least get an opportunity to have income, a stream of income, while going to school. Okay? And some of the programs include alarm technician, which I have access to. Some of them are automotive service advisor. For those, it's like 2 courses or 3 courses, and you are off, you get your certificate. Finding a place to work with it and while you're in school. Okay? So at this point, I believe that I have exhausted the time, and I am going to call our MC to take over from here. Thank you very much. The last piece was quick, but at least I would love to connect with people when they are. Okay, thank you.
Can I get another round of applause, please? So, big thank you to Mr. Danso for that wonderful presentation. So now we will have our Q&A for Mr. Bansa and Mr. Danso, as well as if you need to go downstairs for the career firm thingy-majigger. Yeah, sorry. There's a question.
Okay, I will take a crack at this first, and you may jump in the immigration piece. That is what we were talking about right at the start of the sharing, that zooming in with what we really, really want to do. Those influences are going to come in that, oh, go do this ABC program, go do that. One of the PowerPoint slides was saying who I am, what I really, really want to do. And as I was saying, once you are firmed up with what you want to do in terms of programs, the distractions will not be so much. Okay. Even in spite of the money that may be thrown at you and dangled for you to see that, oh, this one you will make $80,000, it doesn't come quick, that Dan said. Somebody may be very good at business. You migrated to Canada, and so you are a little bit stuck in the sense that it's not that you started out here where you know that this is what I am and you're working towards that, as you said. But it starts off with maybe one program, for example, in the business world. Like, let me start off with payroll, where I'll be able to. I've noticed that the moment you don't have anything going, anything will do, especially when it comes to employment, career, and so on. But once you have something that is reasonably carrying you through, it gives you the ability to make sense of the details of what you really want to do. And remember, for some reason, we get too much focus on the money first than focusing on the long run. That, especially, and I don't mean to scare anyone, if you are like 20 years, you have like 40 years to work, or 45. Okay, so the first thing is for a business, it also doesn't mean by any way that you just get your mind like square-headed that I'm not going to do anything else. Because sometimes you shift to make sense, to be able to continue back the path. And so initially you assess yourself, see how best you are able to start off, but do not discount that. For example, in business, I'll start with payroll. Many companies may want a payroll, and then I will continue on and see how far I fare. There are programs in finances that are like 4 courses to get a certificate from the colleges. You can read them about that first. First of all, you can even ask for the course outlines to see this is, and it's free. You ask them, you get them. You look at the requirements. One of the popular programs, and I'm using example as finance, it doesn't mean everybody go jump into finance, folks. If it's not for you, if it's not for you. But there's one program called Financial Planning at Centennial College, consisting of 4 courses. There are even people working in the bank, mutual funds, and coming to take those certificates, even though they are in the field already, because they are vested that this is what I'm going to be doing. So the 4 courses, that is done in collaboration with Canadian Institute of Financial Planners. And that is where the areas that you need to connect with some of us. But even more so, the strength is being able to do it yourself, okay? All right, so does that answer your question? And taking the time is better. Anything to add?
Marion, thank you for your question, and I identify myself with what you were talking about, probably what you might have gone through. 3 stages or 3 things I'm going to talk, and I'll be very brief. I'll start with my own wife, who is just like you. Francisca thinks that being an accountant, anything to do with administration is the best profession one can have. She studied BSc Administration, accounting option at University of Ghana, did the CA in Ghana, then had to migrate to Canada. I came first. I did a skilled worker application from US to come here. Went to study in US, came to Canada with a skilled worker. I thought after school in US, I wouldn't go to school again. But I came to Canada and I realized that, look, that wasn't the case. Okay, so 3 things. I decided to explore. I, first of all, got a part-time job with immigration and gave me the chance to study how things were going, and had to go back to school at York University, to take another program related to immigration. So that is where I decided to kind of set up my own practice and do it. So there was another pathway where you come in and you realize that there was an opportunity somewhere that I can utilize. There was another area where Francisca, being an accountant from Ghana, came in, and I could see, truly speaking, when she came, I was at times worried. Somebody who had this good profession and job in Ghana, then I've brought her to Canada. And the initial stages had to do all manner jobs, but she didn't give up. Proceeded to take another professional course at York University, and eventually enrolled with accountants, which was an agency, then built it up from there to where she is right now. I also have a friend, William Amegacha, he's in Ottawa. He was actually lecturing at the University for Development Studies in the northern region of Ghana, in nutrition and food science. So he came, we sat down, and I was here before he came, and I told him that, look, you may not get what you were doing in Ghana, so we have to start from somewhere. And he decided to take a course related to health stuff at Humber College. Okay, he was having his PhD, and he decided to take a diploma course, which he lived on, and it propelled him. Now he's one of the policy analysts with one of the institutions in Ottawa. So it works both ways. You come in, you build upon what you have already, but may have to take a professional, semi or a lower course, which will bring you into the field. And trust me, when they see your profession, when they see your qualification, it may help you to rise up there. So these are the areas that we all have to bear in mind. Yes, sir.
Sorry, before you have your question, I just want to say we are on a time crunch, though. Downstairs are our employment coordinators, and they will be leaving soon. So if you want any help with your resume or cover letter or just a job search, you guys can go downstairs, or everyone else who has questions can stay up here. Okay, so who else had a question? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, so for mommy, everybody did just speak through the mic. Okay, yeah, so I'm going through the co-ops side, which about 4 months to finish, but I'm done with the academics. But because of lack of postgraduate equipment, I needed to enroll into a new school. Initially, it was 2 years, but you made mention of, I don't know whether the fees, because the fees for 2 years was a killer. So I have to find a way to cut it down, and I had to get a lot of counseling from those who have lived in this community and in this country. What is the, let me use the word, the shortest, if I'm saying shortest, not a cutting cost, but which area would be much easy to integrate as fast as possible? So I have to venture into the health area. But I've never done anything health. I've always been doing accounting and finance and business. But here's the case, I have to go through the health part because I think that is one of the easiest way to go, the fastest way. And again, to the number of years to is not that 2 years, 1 year. But the school also do offer a postgraduate work permit. Okay. Now, I want to find out. My first 1 year I've gone through with a school without postgraduate because that one is in the tech area. And I'm now going through another 1 year. in the event that I want to apply for a work permit, do they combine the two, or they will use only the second one that has the postgraduate work permit? That's the first question. Then, now that I'm enrolling on the second education, I am married, and my wife is back home. When I'm applying for my permit to stay or extend, I need to extend mine, because I was caught in that web of my passport being almost the exact period of my course. It's only 1 week difference. So yes, so they told me this is it. Then I said yes, because we want to come to Canada, so I have to come to Canada, whether it's 1 week or not. So they gave me the exact duration of my passport. So right after my program, I have only 1 week to be in Canada. After that, either I go back or I extend it by means, which I have gotten admission and I'm enrolled on the new school. Okay, so I want to find out, now that I'm extending, is it possible that I can add my wife to mine application since you are the immigration? Okay, that is, I think I had a third question. Do you remember my third question? Because I told you everything. You don't remember? Yes.
Okay, that's a smart question, and it's a practical one. First and foremost, with your the postgraduate work permit, they definitely are going to consider the program that you took that goes with that offered you the postgraduate work permit. But you are on the right path. You've already acquired some knowledge here, and when you're able to get the postgraduate work permit and then do what you have to do, which I believe that ultimately your goal is to apply for permanent residence in Canada. And that is where your wife's situation comes in. Your wife will be part of your permanent residence when you start, provided you declared her when you were coming as a student. There are forms, okay, then you are good. There's no need to worry about anything. Once you've declared her, you're a smart guy. So there's no problem with that. When it comes to the time where you're applying for the either Canadian Experience class or provincial nominee program or skilled worker application, once you've already declared your wife, she's going to be part of your application. But then with the postgraduate work permit, they're going to count it from the program that offered you the postgraduate work permit. Okay. Does it answer your... Yeah, you consider that you've acquired, that's what I say, you've acquired the education here. At a point in time, it will help in a way. Only that technically, it's not going to help you with the postgraduate work permit. But make sure once you have the postgraduate work permit, you work either in your field of study, which eventually is going to help you with the Canadian Experience class or the the permanent. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. They count it from when you've acquired the postgraduate work permits. Okay, and I think you mentioned about the passport, how the passport expired, and I think when I was talking, I mentioned it that it's very important. Oh, I see. Okay, now is the third question up, or you still don't remember? Okay, let me give it to the MC, and when it comes, then we'll deal with it.
So it is 6 p.m., I believe so. So now we are wrapping up. I would like to call Sister Mavis for a quick, brief presentation, and then we can end it. Pardon? Yeah, so after the presentation, you guys can ask more questions.
Thank you, everyone. Just wanted to stand here on behalf of the church and the community to extend our deepest gratitude and thanks to all of our guest speakers for taking time out of your day, out of your long weekend, and spending time with us in person. We have all benefited from your expertise and your time, so we are really grateful. And I'm sure all of those watching on Zoom and Facebook and YouTube have also benefited. So we just wanted to thank, first of all, our immigration lawyer and our education consultant, and also our colleagues from the Rexdale Women's Center for making themselves available to us. So a hand of applause. Thank you so much. We just have a small token of appreciation to share with you. And so Mr. Bansa, thank you. Mr. Danso. Thank you. Maddie and Tao from Rexdale Women's Center. Come on up. Thank you. Tao, thank you. A hand of applause, everyone. Again, we are truly grateful and thankful for your time today.
Thank you. So we're just gonna wrap up. Oh, continue? Okay, so we're gonna continue the Q&As. Any further questions that we have for any, either with the coordinator? Yeah, okay.
I'll continue from where I ended. You can apply for a work permit with your qualification or credentials that you've gotten so far. So I want to find out how true is this?
Technically, if your school did not have the DLI, designated learning institution number, or if the school situation didn't permit you or allow you to get a postgraduate work permit, you cannot get the postgraduate work permit. But if you want to apply for a work permit in general or open work permit, you may have to go through labor market impact assessment application, because technically you are not, you won't get the work permit yourself. And that application, anyone can apply. Mind you, at the point that you finished your program without the school enabling you, helping you to get the postgraduate work permit, you are here as a temporary resident person. Any temporary resident person can apply for a work permit, provided you go through the right procedure, the channel. What is that channel? There's what we call the LMI, Labor Market Impact Assessment application, where a company that will be willing to give you the position, give you a job, will have to demonstrate beyond reasonable doubt that they cannot get a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident to do the job. In that case, they have to apply to Service Canada for the Labor Market Impact Assessment certificate. And to make the application more effective, they must have advertised the position and demonstrate beyond reasonable doubt that they did not get a Canadian citizen, a permanent resident, to do that. Possibly there was a way around it. That look, people applied, they don't qualify. People applied and their demand is so high, we can't meet it. And therefore, we couldn't take them. So if they are able to prove that, then by law, they are mandated to look for a foreigner to do the job. That is where the LMI application is about. Now, it's processed by Service Canada. And the employers will have to pay Service Canada processing fees $1,000. So if it's successful, then they give you the LMI certificate and you use that to apply for your work permit. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to give you false hope. Look, experience tells me that people get the positive labor market application. They get the certificate, but when they put in the work permit application, there must be an officer sitting at the corner of his office somewhere who will make a sole decision that, look, this kind of job, we believe there's a Canadian or a permanent resident somewhere who can do the job. And therefore, they use their position to refuse the application. So it's true you can make the effort, but the question is, do you have enough grounds to make it a successful application? That is the issue. I do get these things from time to time, and I try to be very honest and straightforward with my clients that this is how much you are going to spend for the processing of the application. Possibly this is how much you are going to pay me to do all those things. The chances, I'll tell you, it could be 50-50. So you have to decide. Sometimes I go all out to tell them that, look, it's not worth it because I don't see any merits in this application. And therefore, you don't have to waste money on the government, and you don't have to waste money on me. So the long and short of the whole thing is that it's possible, but you have to go through the right channel to be able to get what you want. All right? Did I answer it? Okay. All right.
So we have another question from...
Okay, please, my question is, as a student, how will I know the school that I've chosen has the DLI? And then 2, since by applying for the PR, they don't start the hours, the working hours. When it starts from when you've gotten your PGWP, right? So why is it that if you've not started school and you work with your SIN number, it affects it? And then my last question is, what are the courses that if I do, it will help me stay here? Because there are so many courses at the universities or the colleges that you study, then after that, that is all.
Courses, schools, is it for Mr. Danson or it's for me? The first question, if you can repeat it. DLI. How would you know whether a school has a DLI? First and foremost, I think this is an information that you can even Google. Go online and check. The information is supposed to be there. If not, be very bold and ask the school, do you have a DLI? They will tell you. And trust me, if they lie, if they tell you they do have it and they don't have it, you can pick them up on that because they've lied to you, falsified information to entice you to, get to the school. So that, you can find out from the school. On the other hand, look, you can talk to people like Mr. Danson or myself or somebody who has knowledge about these things. And if you cannot find it yourself, we'll be in a position to find out the information for you. Now, with respect to, I think the postgraduate work permit, whether they count it from the time you started working or from the time you got the postgraduate work permit, they definitely will have to count it from the time you got the postgraduate work permit. And mind you, the question I may have to ask is the person in school? No. So the person might have broken the law straight away for working whilst he or she is not in school. And that's what I mentioned earlier on, that if the government gets to know about that, if immigration gets to know about that, it could lead to admissibility hearing. Admissibility hearing is like they will take you to a court, ask you to prove why they shouldn't send you back to your home country for breaking immigration law. Okay, so first and foremost, if you are not in school, technically it's like you have to stay away from work. That's what it means. But trust me, lots of people are working without going to school. And one is over sure so that if they don't get you, you are not in trouble. But hey, I haven't said anything to you. I think it's a live stream, right? So I could be in trouble for saying this. But then the law is that if you are not in school, then you don't have to work. That is as simple as that. I think that was the third question. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. And if you remember when I was talking, I did mention NOC, National Occupation Classification. These are professional jobs. You can find at the Government of Canada website all the professions that are available, that are in need, in demand in Canada. They are listed over there. So if your program falls within any of them, it makes things easier when you're applying for your Canadian Experience Class skilled worker, or if you're applying for your permanent residence, as a result of you studied and worked here. So you have to look out for the NOC. They have their code numbers, and they have the professions also listed there. So if yours is in there, it makes things easier for you. Okay? Yes.
Just a comment that I just wanted, and that was a very good question. Does that also include the skills programs? So, for example, somebody may be skilled in a specific area that they know, and then they have also done a program, either college or university, and based on the skills that they have. So, for example, a cybersecurity analyst. Those are some of the areas that are highly technical, and those who have the skills may stand a chance. Do they classify all those as well? And the second piece is, for those kind of skills that are coming into study, are they able to take contract work per se? Yeah, contract.
The first one is those with the handy people, those with the particular skills. When you look at the skilled worker application, they've categorized them into category O, A, and B. That is for professionals, like managerial positions, and professionals like computer scientists, lawyers, what have you. And then we do have categories C and D, and I'll explain. Categories O, A, and B, if you have bachelor's, master's, what have you, you stand a very good chance of being successful. Whereas category C and D, one may have a diploma, but skilled, yes, that can also work out. But I can assure you that the chances of being successful is O, A, and B when it comes to the skilled worker application. Now, again, if you have a particular skill, like carpenters, electricians, welders, and all those things, and you hold a diploma, and you've probably studied here, a company may find you very valuable. And I do have an office in Calgary, and that is where we deal with these kind of skills, because we talk about those who want to do semi-skilled work in Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, and all those areas. It goes well, as against here in Ontario. Ontario is choked, and therefore it's a bit difficult getting what you want to buy here. But if you go to the remote areas, like Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, there are some companies that do need the skills, and especially Alberta, for instance, welders and all those in the oil industry and those areas. The companies, some of them are able to use their position, their offices to help the candidates to get the permanent resident, and it's also based on how skilled you are, and if they need you urgently, they are able to use their position to help in a way. So, summary, categories O, A, and B, you stand a good chance. If you have your bachelor's, maybe master's, whatever, the chances are great. C, D, sometimes it's a bit limited, but it depends on the skills that you have. Okay? All right.
Question. Mr. Danso would be leaving. Right. No problem. Oh, please, wait, sorry, 2 seconds. Can we just give a round of applause for Mr. Danso before he leaves? Thank you.
If it's too loud. You had 4-year study permit. The program you came to do is 2 years. Okay. In order not to induce an error in the database, I mean, administratively, as far as immigration is concerned, you can let them know. And this is something that's not going to cost you anything. It's not going to affect you or anything. You can let them know. As a respect and as a law-abiding person, you let them know that I'm taking, possibly, that would also tell me that, is it with the same school or you'd have gone to a different school? The same school. Oh, okay. The same school shouldn't be an issue. And probably you can deal with it with the school because the school might have been expecting that the program you're coming to take is a 4-year program. Then if you are doing the 2-year program, it's an internal arrangement with the school. You can deal with that. In that case, even if you don't inform immigration, it's not that much of a big deal. But if you are transferring to another school, in order not to induce an administrative error in the database, you definitely will have to inform them that this is what you are doing. Years ago, right now, if you look at the study permit, it tells you that you must be attending a post-secondary school in Ontario or wherever. It tells you that you can take on off-campus employment with the exception of a few other things. But years ago, if you wanted to do anything different from what they had given to you, it was a must that you inform immigration. Things have relaxed a little bit, but again, as a sign of respect and being a law-abiding person, you inform them. That is before you complete the 2-year program. Just in case you forgot to inform them and you are done with it and you want to do things. Either you can take another program to cover, because you still have a study permit, and therefore you can study again up to cover the 4 years. Or if that is all that you needed, and you qualify for the postgraduate work permit, you have it, you can apply for it. Once you finish the program, because you need to, prove that you finished the program. So either way, it can work out, but I would definitely advise. I try to be law-abiding myself, and I try to let my clients do the right thing. So you can inform them that, look, and this is the situation, and it's not going to affect you in any way. Okay? Did I? Okay. Don't worry, don't worry. let me answer the second one first. If it depends on the number of hours that you are going to take, whether it's a full-time or part-time. Okay, not too long ago, you were required to do 20 hours a week. So if the full-time job that they are giving to you is within the hours that the government has mandated that you can, there's no problem taking the full-time position. Okay. Now, back to the first one. You've lived your life in Ontario, schooled here and everything. It's good to focus on Ontario because your chances are great over here. Why do I say that? I don't know whether you know of provincial nominee program, where if you've studied here, and especially if you've done your master's or master's or PhD here in Ontario, you can apply under what we call the PNP, Provincial Nominee Program. By virtue of the fact that you've done your master's here, you've finished, you are well established in Ontario. Possibly you have a house, you have an accommodation, you have bank account stable. Your family is with you here. There's a provision for that, and they are very lenient on that. And all that they are looking out for is that you finish your program, you hold your master's, and you did it in Ontario. So that one, you apply, and I think you pay the government of Ontario $1,500 to process the application. They will do it, and you do a small, not a small, but a detailed submission, written submission, that this is who you are, this is how long you've been here, this is what you've achieved, this is what you've done here, you've schooled here, you've done all these things. They definitely will, the chances of it being successful is so high. Then they'll give you what we call the nomination certificate. That is not the end. Then federal government takes over with the permanent residence application, where they take over because of, security background check and health, and they'll take over from that point. And once you are cleared with all these things, you're on your way to becoming a permanent resident. So if you've done all this, you've schooled here, you've done everything here, your best bet would be to focus on Ontario. After you've gotten your PR, permanent residence, there's something called occupational mobility. Look, anywhere in Canada, you can go and live there. If you want to go to Northwest Territories, go, but be prepared for the cold weather, okay? Yeah, so that's how it works, okay? Any more questions?
My question is a little bit different. Came in as a resident family. As a applicant. The immigration was because of my mom was the and that means they cannot give us the permanent resident papers. We need to do everything again. Our permanent resident has been seized without giving us even a work permit to start working or even study permit to start going to school. We didn't even give us anything. So do you know any procedure that we can go through in order to get the permanent resident back?
So what's your status right now? Probably you are on a temporary, you hold a temporary resident permit. But I need to ask you some questions. You said your mom was the principal applicant in the procedure when you were putting in the application. Was your mom sponsored by someone? By your dad? Okay. So I don't think there should be, I don't know whether the officer understood the situation, because you were coming to Canada as dependents on your mother, who was the principal applicant, and your dad was the sponsor. Yeah, so I don't think that should be, probably we can talk later on, or you work with Marian, right? You can come to the office one day, and I'll take my time to go through all the stuff that you have, and then we'll take it from there. Because what I know is that it's a different thing if the demise was on your father being the sponsor, okay, but your father sponsored your mom and you were dependent on your mom, meaning you were also sponsored by your father. And that's your biological father, right? And there was a birth certificate and everything to prove that that's your father. That's right. So I don't see why that should be an issue. And how long have you been in Canada? 1 year. Okay, let's talk later and we'll see what can be done, okay?
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm going to take that as a no. So we're just going to end it here. Can we give a big round of applause for Mr. Bansa, please? So as we close this off, we're going to do a closing prayer by Brother Derek. No? Okay. So does anyone else want to do a closing prayer before we close it off?
Please, let's close our eyes. Father, we thank you for how far you have brought us. We started with your name, and indeed, you have graced us. We commit ourselves into your hands again as we are living. Father, guide us and take us to our various home. In Jesus' name that we do pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Thank you. So we're closing this off. I hope everyone got all the information they needed, and if not, Mr. Bansa is still here, and you can just go up to him and ask him any more questions that you have if you feel too shy to ask it in public. But thank you for coming. We appreciate your time, and that is all. Thank you.